Guys who have rejected someone. What's the worst way someone has taken it? Story 1. Girl who I saw just as a friend and had never flirted with started dropping really obvious "I'm in love with you" things in texts. "I can't wait to go on a date with you," "I can't wait to kiss you," etc. I told her I wasn't interested that way. She kept pushing until I told her I was dating someone. I wasn't, and she sent me a really angry text message and disappeared. She started dating someone and got engaged, so I thought I was home and free, until she messaged me the night before her wedding. Basically, she said she just started dating the other guy to make me realize how much I loved her and wanted me to save her from a marriage to this awful man. I told her no. Then she said that she'd shave her head and shave her eyebrows if I don't come to her house to stop her from doing it. I didn't believe her, so she sent me a photo of her shaving one of her eyebrows first. I called a mutual friend and told him what happened and proceeded to block the crazy girl on everything. Turns out she shaved both of her eyebrows but was too scared to shave her head too. What a crazy girl. Story 2. My ex-wife started acting real shady, sneaking out of the house to make phone calls, hiding incoming calls, and not telling who was calling in the middle of date night, even though I asked nicely. She was also a mean drunk and had started drinking to excess every night. Then the physical violence started, throwing shit at my head, including a large rock, kicking and punching when she got angry. This is where I drew the line. One night, she went off the rails again in front of her small children, and I just knew that I could no longer live like that. I had just returned home from a week-long business trip and hadn't unpacked my bags yet, so I grabbed those, took one last look at my nice home and my family, and left. As I walked out, I knew full well that all of the things I didn't grab were probably gone for good, but I needed to be as well, or I would either end up in jail or dead. She blew my phone up for the next couple of weeks, at least 60 text messages a day on the work cell, all hate-filled and incredibly vile. I tried to call her a couple of times when off of work to talk about how we could best separate our finances and things and try to move on amicably, but she would just scream and accuse me of cheating because that was the only logical reason why I had left. All cheaters often do this. The last time we talked before the divorce, she threatened to file a false police report for harming her 4-year-old son. She didn't specify whether the allegation would be physical or sexual in nature. That didn't matter to me. Neither happened, and either one would end my career and my freedom. I cut off all contact. I tried to get her served with divorce papers, only to learn from the process server she had abandoned the home. I went to survey the damage to find almost all of my clothes had been bleached, along with our new living room set. The new dining room table and chairs had been gouged. Weeks worth of trash and raw food had been left out. The refrigerator had been turned off, leaving hundreds of dollars of food to rot. The whole place smelled like death. She had also taken all of the electronics, probably to hawk, my passport with stamps in it from around the world, and the painting I had inherited from my beloved grandfather who had passed away. She knew this would hurt me the most. All said and done, $7,000 in property damage and another $1,500 in stolen property. I filed a police report for insurance reasons and also for a restraining order because my ex had obviously gone batshit and was capable of anything. The police, of course, did nothing, but luckily 2 months went by and I still haven't heard back from her. Reply 1. Holy cow. Gotta ask, how long were you married? Reply 2. A little over a year. We rushed. Okay, I rushed into things. I was disillusioned after my last marriage, which had lasted over 10 years, and in which, ultimately, I learned I didn't know that person at all. The marriage I originally commented on was years and a couple of girlfriends later for reference. I admittedly have horrible judgment when it comes to beautiful women. That's why my family, friends, and myself have forbidden me to ever get married again. Wow, that's an absolutely horrifying experience. I can't imagine the fear and stress that you must have been going through during that time. It's truly heartbreaking to hear that someone who is supposed to love and care for you puts you through something like this. It's also incredibly concerning that your ex-wife was capable of such destructive and dangerous behavior, especially in front of her own kid. Story 3. I once went on an internet double date. My friend had been internet dating this woman for a while and needed a driver to go meet her for the first time. To help convince me to drive, they arranged for one of her friends to come with. When we got to the meetup spot, a few cities over, the friend wasn't there. stuck at work. So I was forced to play third wheel, watching my friend and his girlfriend profess their love and make out. Needless to say, when friend finally showed up, I was overjoyed. She misinterpreted my "thank God, someone to talk to" reaction for a "oh my God, love at first sight" reaction. She got way intense way quick, so I eventually let her down as easily as I could. For months afterwards, I'd get multiple emails and phone calls a day, with the craziest example being an email with our names, "Together forever, I love you," typed out once for every day since we'd met. She also apparently went to my work once, but luckily I wasn't there at the time. I was on the verge of calling the cops after that stunt. Eventually, after my complete lack of responses to her communication and blocking several of her email addresses, it tapered off. But I'd still get random phone calls and emails from her, even years after this all happened. Story 4. Dated a girl from work. After a few dates, I didn't see it going much further. Ended it. Girl pretty much spread around we at work. We didn't. That single-handedly cost me any kind of promotion or horizontal move off what I was doing, so I ended up changing jobs about 12 months later after every application for promotion was given to someone else, despite myself having a lot more experience, know-how with what we did. Prior to that, I was being moved around from project to project. After, I just went back to permanent nights. Said girl went on to get pregnant about 6 months later by someone else from work. Lesson: don't dip your wick in company ink. I'm so sorry to hear about the impact that this false rumor had on your career. It's really frustrating when baseless rumors can ruin someone's professional reputation and hinder their opportunities for growth and advancement. I hope that you've been able to move on from this experience and find success in your new job. Don't let this setback hold you back, and keep working hard to achieve your goals. Story 5. Me and this Irish chick hooked up. We had a few great nights of doing it, and let me be honest with you, it was insane. Come the following week, we play it off at work like nothing ever happened. About 2 weeks after that, we are doing it again at my place after work. I realized after a month that our 20-year difference in age is gonna lead us nowhere together. I break this to her, and she walks to the site parking lot and burns my pickup truck to the ground. Like, not even the aluminum rims survived this. She was arrested for arson. I laid no charges against her. I got a new truck thanks to insurance. Story 6. So I don't know what was up with this girl, but she wanted in my pants probably more than was healthy. I turned her down on several occasions, and usually she accepted it with grace and composure. I never ended up having sex with her, and one day when I was propositioned by her, she just freaked out. And what went from a weird friendship turned into full-out bitch fest on me, with her saying that I was leading her on this whole time, making her think I wanted to date her, keeping her out of the dating world, and basically just being a dong. I was later explained by one of our mutual friends that she apparently thought that I was being nice to her because I liked her, and that I teamed with her online because I wanted to go on dates with her. Turned out she had this whole relationship fantasy about us that was never real, and I was oblivious to it the whole time. Story 7. Had been working at a new bar for a couple of months. One of the waitresses who had a rep for sleeping with nude doormen gets hammered and can't drive home. I take her home, walk her into her house, put her on the couch, and put a blanket over her. As I'm leaning down, putting the blanket over her, she grabs my shirt and tries pulling me down to kiss her. I tell her she's drunk, so no thanks, and then she proceeds to tell everyone at work that I'm not straight for the next 6 months because I wouldn't take advantage of her while she was drunk. Story 8. I got one. In middle and elementary school, this weird girl took a liking to me, followed me around at recess, and wanted me to marry her when I grew up. If I wanted a recess to myself, I'd have to outrun her and lose her. Kept me in good shape. Fast forward to high school, I landed in the same film arts class as her. I'd often be out filming interviews and short films around the school, but when I was in the editing room, there she'd be, oogling me from across the room, inching her chair closer and closer, and complimenting me on virtually everything: my hair, clothes, jewelry, etc. I was a socially awkward teenager, and I didn't explicitly tell her no as soon as I should have. She reached out to me on Facebook a few times, asking if I'd consider dating her, and that's when I said, I have no doubt you'll find the one, but it's not me. I'm pretty sure she started stalking me after that. It all started when I was biking to school one day and saw her leaning up against a telephone pole at the end of my street, staring at me as if she was expecting me. She lives quite far away from me. I used to live on her street in elementary school, so she must have followed me home, then gotten up at the crack of dawn, and figured out when I'd be leaving for school. This happened a few times. Fast forward to present day, she seems to have figured out what routes I take home from work. Sometimes I'll be biking to work or home from work, and she'll be standing at the intersection again, staring at me as if she's expecting I'm going to come this way. She messaged me again a few weeks ago asking if I'd date her, and I gave her a very clear rejection. Hopefully this time it sticks. I'm just really glad she doesn't know where I live. Well, at least you know you're keeping in shape with all that running and biking. But really, that sounds like a pretty creepy situation. I mean, it's kind of flattering to have someone take such a keen interest in you, but when it crosses the line into stalker territory, that's when things get real uncomfortable. Story 9. Lying to me that she had become pregnant and intended to keep the kid. We'd always practice safe, but we always use willy protection, and it has a non-zero failure rate, and there's no good way to tell someone who says they're pregnant that they're wrong. So I took her at her word. After 3 weeks of her stalling on showing me any kind of proof beyond her word, she told me it wasn't going to be a problem, but I was beside myself with stress until then. Meanwhile, I'm figuring out if I need to lawyer up. I take responsibility for myself, so being a deadbeat wasn't an option. But child support was going to throw a huge wrench into my financial plans. I was in the middle of moving to a new city as well, and it all really sucked. Near as I can tell, her goal was to inflict stress and pain, and she succeeded to do so. Well, I'm glad that you were able to eventually find out the truth and that you didn't have to go through the added stress of legal battles or child support. It's important to take responsibility for our actions, but it's also important to recognize when someone is trying to manipulate or take advantage of us. Story 10. I was seeing a girl off and on, and she texted and wanted me to come over and then go grab a drink. I drove over to her apartment, and when she opened the door, she was falling over drunk. I went in and poured myself a drink and sat on the couch. She sat right beside me and put her hands all over me and under my shirt. Slurring and talking super close, her teeth stained gray by the red wine, I just was really put off by it. I told her I didn't feel like doing it, and she blew up crying and got angry and mean, saying that men can never say no and how can you do this to me? I calmed her down and told her I wanted to go home and just wasn't in the mood for this or drinking in general. She asked me to take her to the bar, so I dropped her off. She was usually a pretty respectable person. I didn't judge her harshly. Drinking can make people irrational and emotional. Please leave your story down below in the comments. I would absolutely love to make a video about them in the future. And also don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, peace.